Boy, oh boy. Let's see what we've got going on today. What's up, everybody? Everybody hear me? Possibly, maybe. Can anybody hear me? Are we good? Volume good? Sound good? Good. Sweet. So what's everybody up to? What's going on? I say it'll be at least 4 more weeks. I think you're crazy. I'll tell you why in a minute. Loud and clear. All right, good deal. Sounds fantastic. Wonderful. Bowling, we're in a hiatus. This kind of sucks, doesn't it? I think so. I think it's kind of lame. Anybody that follows me on Facebook knows I've kind of researched this whole thing a little bit. Been doing some things, watching all the numbers, watching the data, watching everything. No, I don't think it will be more. I actually think it'll be much less. I think Trump's going to stick to his number of that first week. So, rather be bowling. Yeah, no kidding. I think so too. So here's what I think of the whole thing. First of all, in my opinion, and based on everything that I've seen, this thing's been here since at least November. China did a very good job keeping it under the wraps for who knows how many months. Well, the first we actually heard of it was in December. I think it was actually here probably at least 3 months before that. And if anybody remembers, the media made a big deal about the amount of people who were sick or who were getting flu-like symptoms, and it was unexplainable. They had no idea. But it was in the hundreds of thousands of cases going on. And if you look at the flu cases for this year, for this season, they're way up. And because most of it's an estimate, not everybody gets tested for the flu. They don't always test. They just kind of go based on, okay, you have this, and this symptom. That's the flu. That's what they call it most times. Unless it's something unexplainable, when it starts to come into the upper respiratory type situations where there's respiratory issues and you can't breathe. Now they're going to be like, okay, now we need to test. So they started testing all these people, and they all kept coming back negative for the flu, and they couldn't figure it out. So they kept just calling it pneumonia and upper respiratory infections, viruses, and stuff like this. So I think that it's been here for quite some time, and it went undetected for a while because the death rate and the flu rate is through the roof. And I don't know that necessarily anybody did it on purpose. I think it's just something that happened, and we saw the peak at like December, January. We saw the peak, and now that now that there's a name to it, that it's called coronavirus, I think I think that they're testing for it. If you look at the actual numbers, they show that 85 to 90% of people who are being tested are coming back negative for the virus. So there's 2 factors here. One, the reason why so many people are coming back negative is because the media has everybody in a frenzy. Everybody's so freaked out over this thing because all they keep talking about is, oh my gosh, there's a 10% chance you can die if you get this virus, because look at the numbers. 1,000 people have it and 100 people have died. Well, those numbers are false. That's just not, it's not completely true for a couple of reasons. A, they're only testing people who have super severe symptoms or fit the other category of being elderly or have pre-existing conditions. So when you're only testing those people, of course the rates are going to be high. We have no idea. And then they went around telling everybody how people are asymptomatic. That's the problem, is people are asymptomatic. So they're running around the world spreading it to people, and they don't even know they have it because they don't have symptoms. They don't even know who they're spreading it to. So that's why this whole quarantine thing came in. They're like, oh my gosh, this thing is super, super, super contagious. And so we got to shut everybody down. We can't have everybody running around spreading it around. Well, the problem is, in my opinion, and what I think is true, I think too many people, or I think it's been around for so long that it's already been, that most people have already had it. I can tell you a story of exactly how I know I had it because I was in the ER for a day, literally 23 hours, and I didn't know what was going on. I was on my way back from Indy, and I felt weird, like somebody was sitting on my chest. And at the time, I'm thinking, oh, it's just maybe it's just chest pains or indigestion or something. I don't know, but I could feel my blood pressure rising. And so I stopped, checked my blood pressure. It was like 140 over 90. So not awful, but it was still getting up into the hypertension area. So I'm like, okay, if I don't feel good by the time I get home, which was like 3 hours later, I'm going to go into the hospital and get checked out. So I felt worse by the time I got back to my town. And so I stopped. I told my wife, I'm like, I got to get this checked out. Like, I'm not dying. Like, I don't feel like sick or anything, but something just doesn't feel right. I'd rather be safe than sorry. It continued to get worse, and the breathing actually got more difficult. Now, it never got to the point where they're talking about how you're like gasping for air, but I could definitely feel tension. I could definitely feel that it was getting worse. Once I got there, they were worried of heart conditions, heart problems, because again, this was at a time where they didn't know anything about coronavirus. So they're checking. They put me on an EKG, and my blood pressure at this point now was 169 over 102 or something. Now at this point, it's close to that. It's getting closer to that 180 point where they're like, whoa, 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 like you need to chill out. Like we need to figure out how to get your blood pressure down. It was close. And if you go and you do the research, high blood pressure and that feeling of basically lungs collapsing is one of the major symptoms of this whole thing. Well, luckily for me, they got me some. I don't even know what they did. They just pumped me full of fluids and everything else, and then I did a stress test the next morning to find out whether my heart was having issues or something, and then it all came back good. But because I'm fairly healthy, I think I kicked it much faster. Well, lo and behold, next thing you know, my son's sick, my wife's sick, all of them the next week. And my wife is basically going through things to where she's like collapsing, can't breathe when she's working out. So she had to stop working out. So it's just too much of a coincidence to say that it wasn't something to do with that virus. But anyway, so I'm in the belief that this thing's been around for quite some time now, and the doctors all the experts are actually getting. They're actually starting to catch up and starting to realize that, wow, okay, we're way off on this thing. We've been testing since the beginning of March, and we're not seeing the rise that we thought. There was actually an article, I just shared it on Facebook, where the CDC and the WHO doctors are come out and they said, we screwed up. We thought there was going to be 2 million cases, and we're not even going to be close to that. This isn't estimating to be nearly what it was. And this whole time, a few of us have been screaming this since 2 months ago or a month and a half ago, saying, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Why are we going through all this crap? You're basically destroying the economy over a guess, and we have no idea. And so when you look at all of this other stuff, wait, hold on. What does that say? My question is, why didn't you transmit it to anyone else, though? You can go get tested for the antibodies. I don't know what you mean by that, but question answered. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, my wife, my kid, whatever. But and then when I talked to Mason said the same thing. He was deathly ill. I think it was December or January or something, and he felt the same type of thing. And there's a lot of people I've talked to over the last month now who have the same type of thing. Why has Italy and Spain been hit so hard then? Because Italy, they're now coming out and telling you the truth, that they weren't actually reporting properly. They're basically saying, even if it's a cancer patient and they test positive for COVID-19, they're listing the death as under COVID, not as, whatever. So they have so many people, and they're such an anti-vaccine state that if you look at their numbers, it was shown that it was 90 some odd % of the deaths that Italy had they all had at least a pre-existing condition, and it was like 80 some % had 2 or 3 pre-existing conditions, and their population is the second oldest of all countries. So that kind of plays a big deal into it. So when you look at the stuff like the flu, and you can't even really compare it to the flu, because technically, they're both viruses, but technically the symptoms are a little bit different. And they're saying that this is way more contagious than the flu, because of, you can have it for and spread it for 14 days before you even have any symptoms, is what they're saying. So and if my theory is correct that we've had this since October, well, then that means that 90% of the population has pretty much already had it and gotten over it, or built some antibodies, or whatever. And the people that are getting it now are just, they're coming to the end of it, not the end. I don't think this thing's going to go away. I think they're going to continue to build a vaccine for it. But I think it's way less severe than what they're talking about. And everybody freaked out because they saw the percentages. They're like, oh my gosh, I saw 10%, I got a 10% chance of dying. Now you're spreading all this fear into people. And now the fear ended up being, well, if we're going to have 2 point some odd million people get this thing, and they're all going to rush to the hospitals at the same time, we have no way of treating them all, which is true. That's a very valid fear because of this actually requiring ventilators and respirators and all that stuff with the problems it causes in the upper respiratory and the lower respiratory. They're saying that we're going to run out. If all these people get sick as fast as they are and they get through this the way they are, we're not going to have enough space for all these, and the death rate's going to go through the roof. So that was a legit fear. Unfortunately, I think they over-exaggerated it by quite a bit. And because of the media pressing all of these numbers, if you go back and watch the news from the last 2 months, all they did was, the first thing they said was, oh, death rates are up to this, case counts up to this. They were spreading no hope. They were giving no positives on the whole thing. They never ever gave you anything good to look forward to. It was just constantly, it's what the media does. They were constantly sitting there saying, oh, death rates are at 10% here. You got to be careful. We're all going to die. The end of the world's coming. It's just all overblown. So now you've got everybody saying, oh my gosh, I got a tickle. Oh, I'm going to die. I better go to the hospital. So now all these people are flooding the hospitals. And that's why you're seeing 96% of people come back with negative, that they're testing negative for COVID. So I think it's, since the beginning, I've been saying this thing is such a joke, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll blow back up again. But now all these things are coming to light. All these doctors, the WHO, the CDC, now they're coming back and they're saying, "Oh shit, sorry, we screwed up. We're overestimated this a little bit." And so now you have people talking about past issues, like when Obama was in office with the H1N1, 60.8 million people got the H1N1 virus, and over, what was it, 12,000 or 20,000? I don't remember the exact death number, but there was a lot of deaths. It was at least in five figures. And they didn't do anything except say, be calm, just take care of yourself. It's no different than the flu. You're going to be fine. It affects the elderly more than anything. And actually, at that time, I think H1N1 was hurting the young people just as much. And now this one shows that it's more dangerous to the elderly or people with pre-existing conditions. And yet here we are freaking out about this whole thing. So I really think that, certain countries handle it a little bit differently. I think fortunately for us, or for us that are in the United States, I know there's other people that are on this live that are from other countries, but fortunately for the United States, our medical systems are pretty good. They do a pretty good job staying ahead of this. My question is if we've known about this thing since China first introduced it back in December, now we're 4 months later, why exactly are we have such a shortage of ventilators and respirators and all this other stuff? Like, what? We've had 4 months to try to get our act together. We've known that it's caused issues with the respirators and all that, but now all of a sudden we're in danger of running out. Like, and we don't have enough masks. It blows my mind, and I don't even know who do you blame for that. Is that the Trump administration? Is that the CDC for doing all the testing and the WHO and whoever? Like, who actually is at a blame for that? I don't understand how that can even happen. If were we just thinking, okay, it's not going to be that big a deal, and so we decided not to get enough respirators just in case? Like, I honestly, I think that's kind of where you toss it back and forth. Do we blow this thing out of proportion and say, okay, we need tons of respirators, we need to just stock up, and if just in case, and if it doesn't blow up like we think it's going to, we'll just have them for backup for when something does happen? I think that's probably your best case. I think you probably should have done something like that, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to know everything. I can only tell you my opinion. I can only tell you what I think of this whole thing. And with all the extra time that we've had, I've looked into this quite a bit. I've actually done some research and looked into a lot of this stuff. And that's another thing. I just saw Sean Payton come up onto the screen. Yeah, that's that's another thing the media did, was they just kept talking about all these celebrities that were getting it, which it just pushes the panic and fear button even more. And I don't think panic or fear is a way to help this country. You're not forcing people to stay home by making them panic or fear anything. And as you've seen, you still got kids down in Florida playing around on the beaches after they've been told that it's a possibility that they could be spreading this thing to everybody. So I don't know. I think it was a little overblown. So what do I think is going to happen? I think within the next 2 weeks, you're going to see an awful lot more data come out, and it's going to show that this isn't really as big a deal as what we made it out to be. So be on the prepare to start going back to work here by the beginning of, or in the middle, whatever it is, the first week of April. So Trump said himself that I think we're going to end up being okay before Easter. So I'm going to hold them to that. I think that's probably about the right guess. Anybody that's saying this thing's going to go on through the summer, I think that's pretty far. I think that's pretty far fetched, because I don't think we can let the economy crash anymore. So you have to look at it. And this may sound insensitive, and I don't want to sound insensitive because I care about people. Anybody that knows me knows that one death is too many deaths. But we have to think: is a crashing economy going to cause more death than what the virus actually will? So because you're talking about poverty, you're talking about people, you're talking about mental health, you're talking about all these things that come into play. You start talking about a crashing economy, you're going to put people in a really, really bad spot. And then you're going to start having more crime, and there's just a whole lot to think about. I agree with you, JR, but I'd rather talk bowling. Yeah, we'll talk bowling in a little bit. Give me a break. We talk bowling all the time. We can talk something else for a minute. You have to wonder, are we going to, at some point, they're going to have to make a decision. Like, do we continue to let the economy crash and put everybody in jeopardy? Or do we get things back rolling and hope that the numbers are showing that this thing's becoming under control? But then they're going to have to look at, like, are we actually have the steps that we've taken for social distancing, has that been working, or is it just not a big a deal as of what we're saying, making it out to be? So I don't know. That's lots of questions to be answered, lots of questions to be asked, but those are kind of where I'm going with this. It's a cover up to keep people in the home, so the good government called alliance going after the powerful rich. So one of the theories that was going around actually was that it's big business doing this, and that Trump's behind it, because you talk about the entire economy basically crashing. You see all the stock market crashing. You've seen it all go downhill. And then when you start forcing people out of their jobs, now all of a sudden the little people like me, we don't have any extra money. And if we do have stocks out there, we're selling, because now we need that money. So we're selling, and we are now all that's up for sale again. And so now all these big businesses who have been sitting on all this money, now they're buying out all that stock that the little people are selling. And now the little people don't have any money because they're basically out of work. So it's crashing the middle class, and so now it's just a big job to get the big businesses to take over the market again, or to have even more power over the market. So that's one of the theories that was going on. I'm not sure if I believe that or what is really happening, but I can definitely tell you this whole thing is politicized way too much. There's way too much political crap that's going on in this whole thing. And if you don't believe that the media is politicizing the whole thing, being an election year, just look at the past. Look at how many of these deadly viruses have come up over on election years. It's every single time. There's always something that happens on an election year trying to sway people one way or another. So again, we'll see. Whatever happens happens. What's this here? The virus is real. We have several coworkers with it. Once you get it, you're on your own. I mean, I have no doubt that the virus is real. I just don't think it's as big a deal as what they're making it out to be. I mean, I think it's worse for some people than it is for others. And for the people that it's really bad for, it's really bad. So I think it could be, I still think it's overhyped. I think it's too much. I think it's too much to be shutting down the country and the world for it. But what else we got here? I've already heard a lot more people and then turning into alcoholism. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be crazy. I don't think the world's ever going to be the same again because people are going to, like the toilet paper crap. Like, people freaked out and started buying all the toilet paper and everything. Like, what are you doing? Until last week, diarrhea wasn't even one of the symptoms. But then again, they keep talking about how the symptoms keep changing. Now this week, they're like, 2 weeks ago, they're like, oh, you got to have a fever of whatever, and you got to have a dry cough. Those are the major symptoms. And hard tightness and breathing. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't need a fever. Oh, and diarrhea is part of it. And it's like, well, like, make up your mind. Like, of course, all these, you're saying if you're breathing, you could possibly have corona. Like, I mean, it's just, that's just how it goes. That's what it is. So I don't know. But let's talk bowling. How about bowling, folks? I think we'll be back on the lanes the middle of April. I don't think it's going to be as bad as what they're saying. Some people are worried that they're going to be shutting down the schools until the end of the year, which may be the case just because now there's too much catch up to do. But I think we'll be back bowling again in a couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think they're really pushing to get things back going again. So I'm going to be back in the bowling center in 2 weeks doing reviews and talking about all the new bowling balls here shortly. So, holy cow, they're coming. Comments are coming in too fast. What are you doing? Ooh, sweet potato chips. Thanks, buddy. All right, here we go. Forget about the Corona for 5 minutes. What about the Axiom? I think the Axiom is very, very iffy. I think the Axiom is one of those balls that at first it looked really slow when I did the review for it. It was a really strong, really smooth ball. And then once I got it out to the World Series on some good volume, that thing went down the lane and took a left turn. Like somebody was down on the end of the lane and kicked it. So it was just too strong overall for me. I think you and Trump are thinking too positively, and the negative completions are ended immediately. Another one hope earliest in September. Earliest in September? Wow, y'all, you're nuts. Like, that's like, no. Look at the data. Just look at the data. Look at the graphs. That's all you have to do. That's it. Let me go here. So I can't wait. Just got a storm. Marvel. Wow, that's an oldie. Washington. New York is bad, yes. But you got to look at where all the major portions are. It's all the big international airports. New York, Detroit is pretty bad. You've got what was the other one? Washington was bad. So California is bad. So all of the major international airports, which goes right back to the whole thing. Basically, the airports are ground zero because all of the transport, all of the international flights from China and all their countries coming here in and out all the time. You know how many people go from China here all the time? That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's been here for a while. How do I feel about the Emerald? The Emerald, I think, is a great ball. That one made my bag immediately because it's an IQ. I mean, the IQs they're amazing. They're great bowling balls. They're good benchmark pieces. You know what they're going to do. I took mine. I liked it when it was shiny. I liked it when it had surface on it. I liked it all around. And I think it's going to be one of those balls that goes with me all the time. So I'm a big fan of the Emerald so far. Holy cow, I can't get through all this. If I don't answer your question, I'm sorry. But there is Super Chat. I found out that Super Chat is a way to make sure your question's answered. I guess. That's pretty cool, I guess. Maybe. Do you give online lessons? Yes, my lessons are through Patreon. Especially right now, it's a pretty good time. I'm pretty free, so I got a couple to catch up on that some people are still owed for this month. It'll be good to go. But yeah, patreon.com/Life's Traction Control. You can sign up for those lessons. Is it easy to drill? Yeah, I mean, putting holes in a ball is easy. Hitting lines is easy. Understanding, how to put the holes in the ball is easy. It's the layouts and the fitting. It's the hand fitting that's the hard part. That's an experience thing. You get it over experience. Radical results. That's one I got to do a review on. What do you do with the balls that you drill? Usually I give them away to a high school team up north. And you started throwing motive equipment. How do you like the Forge Fire? I think it's a good, strong, smooth piece. The Forge Fire was the ugliest bowling ball I think I've ever seen. I know Trump is worried about election, but he's right. The cure can kill the economy. I agree with that. I think we've gone too far. I don't necessarily think it's so much the election. I know he's worried about it, but whatever. You kind of have to come to the realization that the president really doesn't have any control or say anyway. So you're pretty much stuck with Congress and whoever's in the House and Senate. So I'll be right back, y'all. You gotta put some pants on. Yeah, let's put some pants on. There you go. You got there's a ball right here. There's a ball right there. There's a ball right there. It's a heavy ball. It's not big, heavy. Don't step on that, goofball. I want a shirt. You want a shirt too? You're a kid. You don't need a shirt. All right. Where are we at? What do we got comments-wise? Let's see what we got here. Have you considered a Rico drilling? Oh, I don't know if you're talking to me, but... For lagging the arm on the down. Not sure what you mean by that. Omega Crux, very super strong. Holy boy, I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you giving a hard time? You giving me a hard time? I don't know what you're talking about. Should have said bowling. It's not very nice to talk about Tom Doherty like that. That's mean. No mean talk. Trying to get through. All right, well, I'm just going to go to the bottom. Here we go. All right. Picked the call wrong. Why'd you pick the wrong time? This is the perfect time to get interested in bowling, because now you get to come online and learn everything you need to learn and then go and practice it. Boom. Perfect. In Italy, we don't play since the end of February. Missed the lanes at the moment. Yep. Everybody's like that right now. When did you give me a haze? I don't remember you giving me a haze. I'm missing something. Oh. Who's a goof? I'm a goof. My wife just texted me and said I'm a goof. Apparently I'm a goof. I know I'm a goof. It's okay. Tons of videos at the moment. Yep, definitely watch them all. Get to them. Sorry I gave you such a hard time in comments. I appreciate your videos and stream. Whatever. I must have missed them or something. What's stopping me from making cuts? That right there. That's it. It's the only thing. I don't have any physical problems really. I mean, I could fix some swing things, but there's nothing physically that's keeping me from throwing the ball where I want and rolling the ball how I want. I can get around the ball. I can play straight. There's nothing I can't really do with the ball. It's just all mental. Like, it's just a mental block. That's all. We'll get there eventually. Yeah, I mean, it's just I went from having a bunch of success, took a job where I didn't get to continue bowling for a while, and then I just fell off a little bit. Now I'm trying to get back into it. It takes time to build confidence and get where I need to go. I'm confident in my ability. I'm just not 100% confident in my decision making for myself. Now, if you put me behind somebody who is bowling, I can tell you exactly what needs to happen right then and there. But they always say some of the best coaches aren't the best bowlers. So maybe that's me. Maybe I'm just a better coach than I am a bowler. Who knows? Any plans or drills you're going to do for mental gains? Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna have to read some more books and try to figure out, how to build a little bit more confidence. What is my bowling strength? I don't know. Playing straighter, I think, is probably my best. I think I'm better playing straighter than I am playing in, even though most of any tournament that I've ever won, I was playing in. So I don't know. I like to play straight. It just, you don't get to do it very often. How do you go from a 215 average on a house shot to 230? That would be an extra strike a game. Just, it's got to be in a row. That's all. You just got to, instead of having double, spare, double, spare, double, spare out, you got to have a three bagger in there. And all of a sudden you got 230. No, I mean, it's about, it could be a spare thing. You may just have to make your spares. Maybe you're missing a spare game or something. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. All kinds of stuff that doesn't go into it. So my head's looking shiny. Huh? It's pretty good. Good stuff. I have a Motive Trident Abyss, an original Motive Primal Rage. What ball do you think would work best? Well, you got to be careful, bro. Come here. Come here. Sorry, you got to hear a kid cry. He just fell. Oh, man. Oh, man. Hey. 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 Did that hurt? Let me see. Let me see. Where'd it hurt? Right there? Right there? You'll be okay. You'll be okay. You're okay. Hey, that's enough. That's enough. You're all right. Yeah. He is exactly reflecting on how we all feel. What's your favorite lanes in the Bay City area? Bay City, I liked. Well, I heard they were closing. Maybe they're not. But Bay Lanes was pretty sweet. And I liked Monitor back in the day. Monitor was awesome because they used to run this small tournament when I was in college there. And even before I was in college at Saginaw Valley, Monitor used to run a tournament every weekend, basically. So it was pretty sweet. Yes, we are so tired of being stuck here. Are you good? There you go. He fell. He was playing, running with something. Oh, his fort materials. We bought him a little thing where you can click them together and you make a fort. You put a blanket over it, and he was carrying them and fell and hurt himself, I guess. But yes, it is nap time. You are correct. He should have been napping. It's 3:15 now. Yeah, he should have been napping a while ago. 3:40 now. Shoot. All right. When you increase axis rotation, do you follow through in that direction too? It depends on the person. It depends on what you need to do. I mean, everybody's different. Here's going to be a little bit of a rant. There's so many people who are looking for a textbook of what you should and shouldn't do, and there can't be, because what one person does to get something to happen doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for the next person. So all these people who come across their body to create whatever it is that they want to create, that doesn't mean you have to come across your body. And that doesn't mean that you don't need to either. Just you have to figure out what works for you. So a lot of this game is so much about experimentation, trying to figure out what does work for you and what doesn't work, and then working on, figuring out what those things are that work and then implementing them into your game and just practicing them as much as possible. I second that question. How do you get into the PBA and get a card? Do you need to win regionals? No, you just gotta. The stipulations need to change to get into the PBA. To be honest, you need to. Right now, I think it's. I don't even know what it is. I think you need to average 200 for a couple of years or something, and that's it. And then you can buy your card. But that needs to change. They need to make that a little bit higher, a little bit stronger. But and then you just go bowl regionals. You can use your card, go buy bowl regionals, and gain some experience. That's what I suggest anyway, is going to bowl regionals, just getting some experience out there on the lanes, and just learning, talking to guys who's been out there who have won, and, figuring it out a little bit. But, I mean, that's what I did when I was young. I bowled a couple of regionals when I was like 17, got my brains beat in, finished at the bottom for the most part, and then I decided that when I was like 18, I wanted to go bowl in college. So I took my buddy Josh with me, and we went down to Saginaw Valley to have a tryout with Dan Dorian, who was the coach at the time, who's recently, he actually a couple of years ago passed away, but he was the coach at the time. And when we got there for this tryout, we went into this little place called Zion Lanes. It was inside a church, and it had 6 or 8 lanes, and all hand oiled, did all that stuff there. And we just practiced a little bit in there. And at the end of it, he basically told me, you're not good enough to even make my D team. And this was at the time when Bill O'Neill and those guys were there. And I was pretty awful. But I took that to heart. I was very, very upset about that, and went home. And I was 18 at the time. So it was until I was about 22 that I just started to practice. And I went home, and I spent every dollar, every dime that I made working on bowling balls, on practice. Yes, I paid for practice every single day during the summer. I bowled as much as I possibly could. This was about the time when Brian Regan in Michigan started running sport shot tournaments. He wasn't getting a ton of entries, but it was good experience. It was a time where we could get out and bowl on tougher conditions, and that's what I grew up on. So I practiced for those 2 or 3 years on nothing but tough sport shots. And I started winning. I started doing better. Next thing you know, I'm winning just about every one of Regan's events. And I crossed with a guy, Steve Novak, who was at the time going to Saginaw Valley. And he went to Dorian and said, hey, you need to get this kid to come here. So next thing you know, Dorian's calling me up. And he says, hey, I heard you got a whole lot better. Why don't you come back down? And basically at this point, I'm looking at him and I'm saying, I really just want to punch you in the face because you told me I suck, but I wanted to prove him wrong at the same time. So I went back down, and basically he kissed my butt and told me, oh, you'd be one of our best players. And that's when Dan McClellan was there. And he's like, you and Dan would basically own this country, in which we did. I went down there, got in, and we won 18 of the 21 tournaments that we bowled. The very first tournament was a tier 1 that I bowled, and I won. Dan finished 3rd or 4th or something, 2nd maybe, I don't know. Yeah, we went 1-2. Dan finished 2nd, and then from that on, we were both All-Americans. Won a national championship, and then I transferred to McKendree, and it was kind of lights out from there. So, and that's when I was really gaining experience, really getting better at the game, and starting to learn, bowling everything I could. I was bowling as much as I possibly could, and then come 2016. I took a job at Turbo, which then required me to be on the road a lot and basically kind of put bowling on the back burner, and worked there for 3 years. Left there last year and have kind of been on my own since then. And now I'm trying to get back into it again. So trying to pick up where I left off basically in like 2015, when I was bowling a lot and bowling everything. But you went to McKendree. Yeah, I went to McKendree in 2000. I left Saginaw in 2007 after we won the national championship. I transferred down to McKendree chasing a girl because I was stupid. But it was a life lesson. You live and you learn. chased a girl, went down there, and we basically built the program. That was when Gary White was there. We brought in Dennis Knepper. Anybody that knows Dennis is a great coach. Um, we Gary was with me basically saying, hey, who do we want to bring in as a coach? And that's when he interviewed about a half a dozen people, and Dennis was one of them. And he brought Dennis over to meet me. And I'm like, yeah, Dennis is a great dude. Bring him in. And Dennis has been there ever since. And so they've built a powerhouse. And then my next year was the first year we ever made nationals at McKendree, and it's kind of grown from there. Then we went up to Chicago and had AJ Johnson come down for a tryout, and he ended up going to McKendree the year I left. And it just kind of grew from there. And then the O'Keefes came in and took over the program, and now it's just been blowing up and growing ever since. And they've built a powerhouse over there. So I like to think that I had something to do with helping McKendree grow a little bit and get to that spot. So kind of a proud moment there. I'm sure if you ask the O'Keefes or anything, they'll say no. Dennis probably would say yes. He'd probably agree with me, but not the O'Keefes. I don't think. I don't think Shannon likes me very well. Couldn't tell you why, but I could tell you a story as to why I believe she doesn't like me, but I don't. I'm not gonna go there. But we'll leave that one off. It was from when I worked at Turbo. But anyway, so I like to think that I had a little bit of something to do with McKendree being a powerhouse nowadays, but who knows? Doesn't really matter either way. They're a good program. If any of you guys are looking into getting into college, it's definitely a place to go. Shannon and Brian are definitely great coaches. Dennis is a really good coach for the men's team there, and they'll take good care of you and teach you everything you need to know about bowling. So no bad things to say about any of those guys. They're definitely great coaches. But anyway, so bowling is what we've got. That's kind of what we, it's my life. It's what I do. It's what I teach. All of you guys obviously know that this is what I do all the time. So, yeah, let's see what we got here. The simulator question is actually interesting because I went to Topgolf while I was in Vegas, and I kept thinking, I'm like, man, why is there not like something like this for bowling? Granted, it would be much more difficult, and it would be really hard to simulate, bowling and make games and stuff like that. But I think it would be really cool to have a simulator of some sort at home, that's what I keep saying is there needs to be like a 25-foot stub lane to where you actually go through your approach and throw the ball into a sensor. And it wraps around and brings the ball back to you, and it reads where your ball is. It reads the spin on the ball. It does all that stuff for you, and tells you exactly, there's a big screen there that shows you how the ball's going down the lane and the pin action and everything. I think it would be really cool. Do you still use Turbo or Vice now? No, I'm still a Turbo guy, still on staff with Turbo. Haven't considered changing it all. They've done, even though we had a little bit of a falling out, but it wasn't anything to write home about. Nothing horrible. So after I left there, Chris Sand got a hold of me and said, hey, we still want you to, be on staff and everything. So I'm like, all right, saves me from having to switch everything out. But I know they've been pretty supportive. You saw them in Indianapolis, and they've been really supportive of everything still. So no hard feelings there. You're the first person I know of say that, Joe. Say that they're harder than Vice, because I think we actually measured them out, and it depends on the durometer, of course, but most people say that Turbo are actually a little bit softer. Now the Classic Pros are definitely harder because they're meant to be harder. They were made at a harder durometer material than what the regular quads and the quad classics are. But the Classic Pros are, they're like a 55, whereas a normal grip is about a 45. So that 10 points is quite a bit when it comes to that type of, material. So I think I think both Turbo and Vice make great products. I don't think there's an issue either one of them there. So, you can support whoever you support. When I worked there, obviously I would tell you I would prefer you to, support Turbo, and I probably still would. But you're not going to hurt my feelings if you're using Vice stuff. Do you believe you will ever best your 2015 season? I don't remember my 2015 season. I, I, I don't. I made the show in 14, the national show. I've made a couple shows after that, but they weren't big TV shows. It was the Extra Frame one and the Doubles one. Made the one in 2016, finished second to Simonelli. That's my best finish so far. But my opinion is I've never actually bowled a full time, you know, tournament schedule as far as on tour. I've never ever bowled full time out on tour, and I think in order to have success out there, or at least consistent success, you pretty much have to be out there all the time and learning and building, all the tools that you need to be out there, because the life out there is just completely different than bowling local tournaments and being a weekend warrior. I think you need to commit all of your time to being out there. And if you're a family guy, it's really difficult to do. You got to really have you basically got to have a stay-at-home wife, and kids that are not super young in order to make it happen. Most times, I'm not saying that's a necessity, but it makes it easier. And the wife has to be very understanding that you're going to be gone for 6 months of the year. Nowadays, it's 6 months anyway. So I mean, it's very difficult because you got to be going overseas. You got to be bowling all that stuff too. So, yeah, I don't know. I think if I were to bowl full time, I think eventually I would be able to compete. Right now, I'm having a hard time, or I had a hard time over the World Series because it was that typical. I wasn't sure which way to go, and I was having, just too much trouble making decisions on the spot. So ball choices were bad. When your ball choices are bad, it makes you're making too many bad shots because you're trying to manufacture strikes, you're trying to manufacture ball motion, and you can't do that. You have to be throwing it really well, and you have to be making the right decisions. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind really, really fast. And that's at any tournament for the most part, but it's really, really exaggerated when you get to the PBA level, because one or two mistakes in a game could mean you shoot, 190 or 2-0 when the rest of the field is bowling 220 or 230. So it's really, really tough. It's really, really tough to, get to that point where you're not making those mistakes. And when you do make those mistakes, you got to understand whether you're on, are you catching good pairs or are you not? One of the biggest variables in bowling, especially out on tour, is your cross. What pairs you're going to and who you're following and how they're playing the lanes. You got to really pay attention to that. So ball reps are very important in that, because they're watching who's throwing what and who's playing which part of the lane. So when you go to that next pair, they have notes, so you can ask them like, hey, who was here, who started here, what they do. So you have an idea. You're not going from a pair where nobody used urethane to a pair that everybody used urethane, and your first shot hits the right side of the 3-pin, because you just weren't ready for it. So it happens to me because it happened to me multiple times at the World Series, because I didn't have ball reps in my corner, and I didn't have a way to go to the other side of the center to watch. So those types of things are important. If you happen to catch a good cross where you're following people who are doing basically the same thing as you, then you're going to bowl a good set. You're going to have a good cross. So it's very important who you're following and what they're doing when it comes to stuff like out there. So what do you think of Chris Prather's release? Chris is the best physical specimen on tour. Plain and simple. The guy can do anything with a bowling ball. His swing's perfectly in line. He doesn't look like he's trying to do anything ever. The only times he struggles is if he just struggles with ball reaction, and that's very rare. So you're not going to see him struggle too often. Will my son bowl? Yeah, he loves bowling. This kid, every time I go to the bowling alley, he's bowling. So he loves being there. He'll always want to be there. And apparently he is an engineer, because this is what he's doing right now. You can see his his little set of, that's his fork kit. Those things click together. Apparently he's going to be building stuff when he gets older, because that's kind of cool. He's putting stuff together. But yeah, he loves bowling. He'll be bowling for who knows how long. What about EJ? That guy rocks. EJ, again, I mean, he's gotten better and better over the years. And he's that guy I always use an example of. He knows he knows what the lanes are giving him, especially out on tour, because a lot of those patterns, they basically create the same characteristics. And so they want a lot of the same type of ball motions from week to week. And he's figured out how to create those every week. And so you'll see him playing the lanes pretty similar most weeks. And if he's not playing them exactly the same, he's playing the same angles and the same shapes, just from different parts of the lane. So it's he's gotten really good at that. Really good at that. And a lot of the guys have. So do I work at a pro shop? Technically, no. I work out of MRB Classic Pro Shop in Classic Lanes, which is where Mason Brantley is. Basically, Mason's nice enough to let me go in there and do whatever I need to do there, and I promote his shop and help get some customers in there and stuff. So technically, no, I don't work out of there, but I always try to bring people in there. And for the people who aren't there, obviously I want everybody to try to get their stuff from bowlerx.com, because that's where I work as well, So no, I don't bowl the Hamtramck because they don't let me. Yeah, I really hope we can get back out on the line soon. Like I said, I think it's going to be within the next couple of weeks. I think this thing's slowing down. As much as some of the media will try to tell you that it's not, if you actually do the research in the right areas, it'll show you that the numbers aren't as bad as what they were thinking it was going to be. And it'll show you that this shutdown definitely probably was not necessary. But you never know. Maybe the shutdown is what's causing the numbers to not be as high as what they actually are. Or what they actually thought they were going to be. We never know. But yeah, I meant to go live last night, and then we went to the store and got some stuff and just didn't end up actually getting to it. So, but JP, yeah, family's good. Thanks. I appreciate that. Everybody's safe here. Wife is working. She's an essential employee, so she's still working through this time. And she's going to continue to work. So it kind of helps having her extra income coming through. Short pin on an asymmetric ball. Yeah, I mean, I've used it. I don't see enough of a difference out of an asymmetric as a symmetric when it comes to putting a short pin on. I mean, you're basically laying the core down anyway in both of them, so I don't see much of a difference there. If you're maybe it's asym will be a little bit stronger, but not much. But I guess now for the summer with the regional tour, it sure seems like a lot of these events that were scheduled to be going on this month and next month are being rescheduled for the summertime. So there's going to be regionals cram packed just about every weekend. So I'm going to bowl as many as I can. Basically become a regional player and just go and bowl all those and try to win like player of the year or something out there. I had rookie of the year back in 2006. No, 2009. Heck, I don't remember. Some year, whatever. I got the trophy somewhere, but I'm going to try and bowl as many regionals as I can. So, and everybody that's on here, if you have a regional in your area, you can't ask for any better experience than bowling some of the regionals and the PBA events. You definitely should be trying it. If you can afford it, you should be trying it. And no, I've not played disc golf. I want to, but I haven't. You should try to get Rob Stone on your show. I want to see him get a handle. No, I'm not signing with anybody. Not with my job with BowlerX. I need to keep my opinion, as unbiased as possible. I of course have favorite bowling balls, but that's after throwing them. So I don't have a favorite company. I don't have a favorite anything when it comes to that. If I have a favorite company shoe-wise, it's just Dexter, because I've always worn Dexters and I love the sixes. And I don't know of another company that makes a wide-base shoe like the sixes, so I'm stuck with them forever. Tried other companies and just couldn't get it right. So, but anyway, we're at 54 minutes. We'll figure a couple more minutes here and we'll get out of here, at least for a little bit. Before BowlerX, did you know? I dropped my contract with EBI because of BowlerX. So otherwise, I'd probably still be on the EBI contract with them. unless I would have gotten dropped because of the new signing with Brunswick. Who knows? I don't know. I'd like to think I have a pretty good influence, to where if I didn't work for Bowler X or something, or if I wanted to get on staff, I would think I could get on staff with anybody. I think I've proven that I could sell some bowling balls. So I don't know. You never know, though. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens in these next couple of years. I have no intentions of doing anything else other than, Bowler X, and eventually I'm going to build a training center. Been talking with Mason. We're going to try and hopefully put something together, get some plans together to build a training center in the Detroit area. I know we already have Bowling IQ and Turbo here, but I feel like I could build something bigger, and really teach some people some things if I had an actual training center that was committed to only, the tournament type bowler, the bowlers that are trying to get better, so I think we could build something pretty huge with that if we had a 2 or 4 lane training center here somewhere, that was open to the public, that, you could just come practice or come get lessons, or, get bowling balls drilled, get bowling balls done, all that type of stuff, with me and Mason there. I mean, not to sound like a arrogant prick, but I think the two of us together in an atmosphere like that would mean big things for bowlers in the area. So I would hope that it would anyway. But we're gonna try. We'll see. The idea. I mean, I would like to be able to find a small bowling center, like an 8 or a 16 lane center, and turn it into like a rec center type of place. Maybe put a gym inside, with, having certain lanes designated specifically as a training center, and then block off maybe a party center for 6 of the lanes, build a little party center, and then, whatever else. So maybe do like, if it's 16 lanes, do like a 4 lane training center, and then block off 8 lanes for, maybe leagues, or for, putting sport patterns down, practice patterns, all that stuff for people, and then having another 6 lanes blocked off as a private party center for people to, throw private corporate parties and stuff like that. That would be the ideal situation. And then have separate rooms that we could rent out for and use for clinics and camps, and run some big stuff. That would be really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, but anyway, maybe we'll do this again a little bit later. I'm going to get out of here. I got to clean my kid's mess up, and I got to clean my house up a little bit and get a workout in before the day is over and the wife gets home from work later tonight. So, just wanted to talk a little bit about this whole virus situation, see what everybody thought about getting back in the lanes, and when everybody, see how everybody's missing bowling. But I'm out of here, guys. We'll see you later. Should be doing another training video here in the next couple hours, so hopefully we'll see hopefully you'll get that out there and you'll be able to see. But make sure to head over to the Bowler X channel. If you're not already on the Bowler X channel, make sure to go over there and subscribe. I'm posting some stuff over there as well. That's where you'll see all the ball reviews and all that stuff as well. So hit that Bowler X channel, bowlerx.com, and I will see you guys later.